What's good, y'all? It's your boy Mixtape Mob. Please like and subscribe to the channel. So I jumped on social media late last night and saw that there was this big Ice Cube versus Biggie debate. I know it's an unusual matchup, but this all stemmed from an interview clip of Tony Yayo on Drink Champs stating that Biggie was the better rapper between the two, and DJ EFN pushed back saying that Cube was the better rapper in totality, even though he has Biggie in his top five. And I gotta say, Tony Yayo did not make the most compelling case for Biggie, considering that he could only quote the same Biggie line like 10 times. So, what are your thoughts on this? In the comment section, let me know who you feel is the better rapper. Remember, there's no right or wrong answer. Although, I would caution those who are quick to say that Biggie is the greatest of all time just to listen to Cube's early 90s material if you haven't, because you got to have that perspective and you got to do the knowledge if you really want to be taken seriously. But I think there's ultimately going to be four factors that are going to be at play in people deciding between these two legends. Number one is going to be your age. Two is going to be your regional preference. The third thing is going to be your production preference. What style of beats do you prefer? And the fourth is going to be, what do you look for in your favorite artist? So starting with age, I think it's fair to say that the older you are, the more likely it is that you're going to be rocking with Cube. Now, of course, there are going to be exceptions. This is not set in stone, but generally, if you're older, like let's say 40 and above, you're going to likely remember the impact of NWA in the 80s and the role that Cube played. You are going to vividly remember Ice Cube's early solo work and the classic albums that he dropped in the early 90s. Conversely, if you're under 40, the more likely it is that you're going to go with Big. Because let's say that your starting point for hip hop is the mid 90s, then Biggie was everything. I mean, let's just be real here. Ice Cube's dominance had started to wane a bit when Biggie was in demand. Younger folks are probably just going to hold Christopher Wallace in a higher regard and deem him as the standard for rapping. I mean, you had quotes ingrained in your head since the mid 90s like, who's the best MC, Biggie, Jay-Z, or Nas? And if you look at that second factor, regional preference, or we could even say regional bias, because guess what? It exists. I'd say in most cases, folks in the South and in the West are probably more likely to rock with Cube. Now, that isn't to say that a man in his late 40s who lives in Harlem couldn't prefer Cube. I'm not saying that. But I do think the region that you come from is going to play a part in who resonates with you more. For years, the South and the West kind of had to stick together because they didn't get as much media attention as New York artists did. So that's something that you got to consider. And the third factor is production preference. What style of beats resonates with you the most? Some younger heads might not find the Bomb Squad production on Cube's first album to be as sonically pleasing to them as the more polished, mafioso boom bap that Big was rapping on. And some might prefer the more G-funk sounds on Cube's mid-90s releases than what Bad Boy had to offer at the time. And the last factor is lyricism. What style of lyricism matters to you the most? And I think that someone who, focuses on the technical aspect of rapping, an artist's technical rapping ability, Biggie's likely to be your guy. And let me be clear, that is not to say that Biggie was a lyrical miracle rapper, because he ultimately mastered that balance between clever lyricism, street rap, and commercial rap. He wasn't like a Black Thought or Pharoah Monch type of MC. That being said, Biggie's rhyme schemes were still more intricate and his wordplay was superior to Cube's. I think it's pretty hard to dispute that. Now, on the flip side, if you prefer more straightforward, urgent style of lyricism with a strong message, then Ice Cube's going to be the better pick. If you tend to embrace the lyrical styles of, let's say, Chuck D, Tupac, and Scarface, then obviously Cube's rapping style you're going to find more appealing. So now that we got those factors out the way, I do want to talk about what these two legends both shared in common. For starters, they each had 2 certified classic albums under their belt. For Biggie, it was Ready to Die and Life After Death. And for Cube, it was America's Most Wanted and Death Certificate. Yeah, I know that some Cube fans are going to say that Kill It Will and The Predator were classics too. And for you, they might be. But all I'm saying is the universally accepted classic albums for Cube are America's Most and Death Certificate. The second thing that these two both had in common was that they each had such commanding, powerful, and iconic rapping voice. The third thing is they were both great storytellers. Now, Biggie didn't have as many storytelling records, obviously because his life was cut short, but these two both had a real knack for storytelling. And the final thing that I want to talk about is where these artists differed. So I touched upon their lyrical styles earlier in the video, but I do want to highlight again that if you are someone who values clever lyricism and wordplay, if those are really like the end-all be-all for you, then you're gonna think Biggie is the better rapper at the end of the day. But I have to say that while Biggie was more skilled in that department, he did not touch upon the variety of topics that Cube did. Now, I know the gangsta persona was a big part of Ice Cube, but he also focused quite a bit on themes like black empowerment, police brutality, politics, and just overall that social commentary. And Biggie fans, we gotta be real with ourselves. Those were not topics that Biggie touched upon in his music. Perhaps if he lived longer, he could have. Because the bulk of Biggie's material was centered on, braggadocio, being fly, and being mafioso. Not that there's anything wrong with that. So at the end of the day, there was a lot to consider. And I think, the more that you study hip hop and try to get that comprehensive understanding of everything, the harder it is for you to pick between these two legends. But if I have to pick, I'm going to go with Cube. I give Ice Cube this slight edge, really just barely, because the older that I get, the more that I tend to value that consciousness in music, and the more respect that I have for the pioneers who kicked down the door. I feel he's a slightly more complete artist. He has that pioneer status going for him and that conscious element to his music. And if you follow my channel, I'm a big fan of mafioso rap, so this was a mad difficult decision to me. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section. It's your boy Mixtape Moth. I'm signing out. But as always, it's peace and blessings. Biggie vs. Cube 1.